Hello and welcome to the Structured Web webinar training series. Today's topic is form distribution in the Marketing Center. Now, the process that I'm about to demonstrate today can be done in either the Marketing Center or in the Site Center scope. For this presentation, I will be demonstrating how to do this process in the Marketing Center. Let's go ahead and proceed to the agenda. I will go ahead and go over a brief overview of form distribution and what it is and how it can be helpful to you. Then we will demonstrate how to assign to a single user, a form submission to a single user, which is basically the norm. It's what is set by default. And then we will go ahead and demonstrate how to assign form submissions based on selection or simply put, based on how the form is completed. So let's go ahead and get right to it. Now, I'm currently logged in into my test account. As I mentioned earlier, we will be demonstrating how to go through the form distribution process in the Marketing Center. So, of course, we're in the Marketing Center scope, and the first thing that we're going to do is look for the Tactics tab. Now, in the Tactics tab, of course, we have an array of subtabs, and we're going to obviously look for the Forms subtab. Now, we're going to look for the form subtab, and as you can see, there's a list of forms here. These are forms that have been made available in the form subtab because they have been retrieved from the library. Okay, an email has been retrieved from the library, and then once that email is retrieved from the library, then of course the form that is attached to that email will automatically appear in our email and in our form subtab. Okay, so now that I've explained very quickly how you can have forms made available to you in the form subtab, the first thing that we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and choose a form, either one. For demonstration purposes, I'll go ahead and choose the Changing Business Email Registration page as my form. So the first thing that comes up is the Content subtab, and then the next thing that we're going to do is basically click on the Distribution subtab that we have available. And then we see that we have an option, assign all form submissions and new context to a single user. Now, distribution basically allows you to assign form results to users. So when forms are filled out by users, you can have the system automatically send emails or create tasks for specific users. As you can see here, for this specific form, any form submission is assigned to me, Carlos Madrid. So this is one of the ways in which an email distribution can be distributed. In this case, it's the single user. And then the second option is based on profiles or based on how the form is completed, which in that case, we would be choosing the assign all form submissions and new context to users based on how they filled out the form. So very simple, very straightforward. It's very self-explanatory. So we're going to choose the first option because that's the first option in our agenda, how to assign or form distribution to a single user. So the next step is to simply click Edit. So as you can see, we have the option to, would you like to send an email notification to the user you're assigning this form to? So based on how whether you select yes or no, when a form is completed and submitted, an email will be sent to, in this case, user Carlos Madrid via email. In this case, I've selected yes because I do want to receive a notification that this specific form was submitted. I can also send a copy of an email notification to another one of my colleagues by simply entering their email. And then once you've made those changes, you can just go ahead and click save. Okay, so that's another option if you want maybe someone else within your organization, another colleague, to receive that same email or that same notification as well. The next option is, would you like to create a task when this form is submitted? Now, basically, what this does is you can use the subject, instructions, the field to customize the task the user will receive. So you can name the task, you can write some instructions, you can determine what stage it in, if it's a new lead, if it's a soft lead, if it's a warm lead, etc. You can also assign the task. In this case, it's only myself. I'm the only user for this test account. But you can actually select the record owner for this specific task, and if you want the record owner to receive an email alert as well, if you want to do that. And of course, you have the option to send also a copy of that email alert for whenever a task is created to another user as well. Okay. Now, if you want to, now of course this is additional. If you want additional people to receive copies of the email notification, this is where you would enter their email. And as you can see here, if you want to send it to multiple users, you can just simply separate the emails using a semicolon instead of a comma. Very important to do that. The same thing with email notifications for whenever a form is submitted. Same process. You can separate the email if you want to send it to more than one user. Separate the emails with a semicolon instead of a comma. Very important. A lot of our partners make that mistake. Another thing to add is that you can actually also select a different email, or you can create a new email. Normally, you will be receiving an email notification, with certain wording and very simple, very basic, but you can actually change that. So just to give you an example, So just to give you an example, this is basically the email that you'll be receiving. It says someone has submitted their details through the name of the form will be auto-populated, and then the content of the form submission. Whatever, in the first name, last name, phone number, email address, whatever the fields, the form fields, whatever information is submitted in the form fields, that's the information that'll appear here. And then that's the email. That's the email that you'll be receiving. This is the basic standard default email. Now, if you want to make changes to that email, you can go ahead and do so by maybe changing the wording or adding or removing certain details, and then you would simply click save. Or you can also create a completely new email by clicking the add new email. You can change the subject, and you can customize it as you wish, and then you would simply click save as well, and that email will be used as the notification email that you'll be receiving, or that any of your other users will be receiving in case you decide to send a copy as default, instead of the first email that I showed you. And the same thing, whenever a task is created, you can actually go ahead and select a different email, and then you can this is the basic email. The following task has been created for you to follow up on, and then the information for that task. So you can actually go ahead and customize that as well, and click save. And lastly, another thing that you can do is you can actually, whenever a contact has been completed, let's say Juan Alvarez received the email, filled out the form, and if you want, you can actually go ahead and add that contact to a group, like a group of contacts that you've already created in the system, and you can simply add that to the group. In this case, I don't have any groups that I have available to share, but any groups that you've created when importing contacts and that you have shared within the account should appear here in this drop-down list. You can select that group and then click save. So basically what that does is that adds that new contact automatically to that group of contacts that you have in the platform. And then whatever changes you've made, you can simply go ahead and click save. So it's a pretty simple, pretty straightforward. But if you do not want to send any email alerts whenever a task is created, or you don't want to create a task, which is normally the case, you can just keep it simple and straightforward and just simply assign form submissions to a single user, in this case myself. Whenever a form is completed, in this case this form that I've selected, an email will appear in my inbox whenever a new or a potential customer fills out the form. Okay. And the second option, of course, is to assign all form submissions and new contacts to users based on how they fill out the form. So that's basically exactly what it is. Now, we have to keep in mind that this option allows you to assign form submissions to users based on the selection a contact has made for a specific form, in this case for the change your business form. But the rule can only be based on multiple choice questions and not on entry fields. So basically what that means is that you would have a field within the form, and let's just to illustrate, there has to be a field within the form where there has to be options. In this case, I've chosen region. It could be North America, Latin America, Europe, Middle East, Asia. So basically, depending on how the form is filled out, in this case, depending on the region selected by the customer, then a form submission will be sent to a specific user. Okay, so I've went ahead and, as you can see here, region, because it's the multiple choice option that I have. So let's click on edit, and then we see a series of options. So as you can see here, the rule is region. So that means that based on the region that the customer selects, I can assign whether I received the email or Kevin. So if, let's say, John Doe fills out the form and has selected NORAM region, and of course, if you've noticed, it is mandatory, because there's a red asterisk. It is mandatory that this be filled out. So I will be receiving the alert. I will be receiving an email that, John Doe from North America has filled out a form. If I want to receive a form submission for Latin America, I can do that as well. Or if I want, I can assign Kevin to receive form submissions from Latin America. Same thing with Europe, Middle East, and Africa, and Asia. So you can actually select who receives the form submission based on what options have been selected. So, and the other options remain the same. You can send a copy. You can determine if you want an email sent to or not. So if you simply don't want to receive a notification, you won't receive a notification. If you want to send a copy to another user besides Kevin or myself, you can do so as well. Same thing for Latin America, Europe, Middle East, and Africa, and Asia as well. And of course, you can also change the email that you would receive if the form is submitted. For every form submission, you can change it just as you would for when you assign a form submission to a single user. So you have all those options as well for each one of the choices made available to the user. In this case, for each region made available. You can also create a new task. Give it a name, type instructions, determine if it's a new lead, if it's a soft lead. If it's not, you can determine if you want to send an email alert whenever the task is created. You can also send a copy. So you have all the options, just like you would when assigning form submissions to a single user. You have these same options when assigning form submissions based on how the form is completed. And of course, whenever any changes have been made, all you need to do is simply click save. Okay, so it's a very simple, very straightforward option that you can take advantage of. This is very useful. If you're gonna wanna stay on top of things whenever a form is submitted, whenever you have a campaign and you want to determine who's receiving the emails and who's actually engaging, who's actually filling out the information in the forms. So you will be receiving emails, alerts through this tool, through this distribution sub-tab. Okay, so that's basically it. It's a very simple, very straightforward process. You can also request additional help by sending us an email at service@structureweb.com. You can give us a call. We're available 24/5 at the following phone numbers. We're also available through live chat, also 24/5. We can provide support, answer any questions through that tool as well. Or you can also take advantage of our online support center, support.structureweb.com, where this same process is available to you. You can actually access other topics, other videos as well through the support.structureweb.com portal. So very useful tool. I urge you guys to take advantage of it. So, well, thank you very much for joining the Structured Web Webinar training series. Hope to see you next time. Thank you.